Bueno, bienvenidos nuevamente a ExpoVid 2023. Vamos a dar inicio a nuestra segunda conferencia. Nuevamente agradecerle a nuestro patrocinador de este año, la Universidad Creativa, por hacer posible este evento. Les recordamos que estamos hoy en un día de transmisiones virtuales. Mañana vamos a estar presencial en AFZ, el American Free Zone, el auditorio EMU. Ahí vamos a tener un evento como no hemos tenido en años. El día de mañana las transmisiones, recuerden que no van a ser como el día de hoy en vivo por nuestras redes sociales. Las conferencias van a ser exclusivas para las personas que lleguen presencial. No obstante, los Beat Awards, la ceremonia de premios, que sé que muchas personas acá están esperando, va a ser transmitida en vivo por nuestras redes sociales. Un agradecimiento especial también a Pinto con Videojuegos, nuestros media partners en este evento y ya por años. Recuerden que esta transmisión también la pueden seguir en vivo en el canal de YouTube de ellos, así como en el Facebook de ExpoVid y en el YouTube de ExpoVid. Recuerden seguirnos en nuestras redes sociales, las tienen aquí a los lados, les deberían de estar apareciendo en pantalla. En Facebook nos encuentran con el handle @expovid, en Twitter o X nos encuentran como expovidcr. Vayan, síganos, súmense, ojalá a nuestra comunidad de Discord. En nuestras redes sociales van a encontrar ahí el link para que puedan sumarse a la comunidad de Discord y sumarse a la discusión. Muy bien, vamos a darle paso entonces a Anissa Arcega, que es desarrolladora en Psychic City Games, quien también es una muy galardonada creadora de juegos en el evento Game Jam Plus organizado en Brasil y en donde diferentes empresas y desarrolladores independientes de todo el mundo han participado. Recuerden que esta conferencia va a ser en inglés y sin más preámbulo, Nisi, bienvenida. Hello, how you doing, Nisi?
Hi, I'm okay. Buenos dias.
Buenos
That's all
días.
the Spanish I know.
No worries. We're going to real quick make a little background share on you. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your story as an indie game developer?
Sure. Hi, I'm Nissy. So I'm from the Philippines. I like to joke, but I'm honorary Latino. um, I guess like that's also why I'm here. I am a producer and a narrative designer, and I also organize communities of indie devs in the Philippines. So I started 2 years ago. I actually didn't like set out to go into video games. I just always liked games, and I used to work as a copywriter, like in advertising. So very different from what I do now, I would say. Um, and it's been about 2 years, and I'm still learning a lot. I think I'm still a baby, so uh, but I've
Aren't
learned
we all?
always learning, yeah. um so yeah, but I've grown to meet a lot of people and learn from a lot of fellow devs, and I've become very passionate about supporting these people, and always in the end, like in any community organizing programs that I would make, I would always think like, how do I make it better for indie developers and my studio
Mhm.
included. So yeah, that's really that's really my focus. Yeah.
Awesome. Very well. Again, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for joining ExpoVid this year. And hopefully, it's not the first and last time we see you. Hopefully, you'll be able to come join us in following editions and hopefully in person.
Ooh,
So, without any more, I'll leave you guys with Nisi. Los dejo entonces con la conferencia de Nisi.
thank you for the invite too. All right, so Oh yeah, there's my screen. So we're gonna start. So the topic today is staying indie in a competitive industry. So this is a love story about indie games. Little bit more about me. So I'm Anissa Arcega. Any pronouns. I am an award-winning indie game maker and community organizer from the Philippines. So I've won a couple of awards for making games in like international competitions and some local ones. Then if you want to follow me on Instagram, I barely post there. Like I post like once a week. But yeah, that's my handle there. If you want to get updated on like what's happening in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. So yeah. Um, so I okay, this is gonna be a lot. I'm sorry, I'm gonna make this quick. So I do a lot of things. I'm a multi hyphenate. Uh, I'm a producer currently at Monsternaut. So this is a Filipino mobile company, and they made like one of my favorite games ever. Like I used to play their game Potion Punch in high school, so it's kind of a dream to work there right now. And I also founded my own studio, Psychic City Games. Um, I produce and do biz dev for there. Then I also write. I'm part of a media publication called Virtual C. So this is a volunteer-run initiative where we try to give platforms for Southeast Asian independent developers. Then I also work for Game Jam Plus, specifically for the global expansion team for Asia. I also organize the Game Jams. Then also co-founded Google Play's Indie Games Group Initiative chapter in the Philippines. So this is the biggest community that I'm a part of. Then also a Women in Games ambassador. So I try my best to uplift women and other underrepresented genders. Yeah, that's me. So I do a lot of community events and exhibits. So I've done panels, indie game exhibits, and so on the right, lower right, that's like a mixer for a game jam that I did last year. Then we also do very like smaller indie developer features where we kind of just hang out on Discord and we talk about their game. Uh, yeah. Then also more pictures of me showing our game around and winning some awards. So these have been like around Asia mostly. Yeah. So just want to go into indie games. So there's magic in these games, indie games. I always thought that uh, indie games have always been so important because they're usually the ones that um, have the most heart, if that makes sense. And while I do say, like, it does feel magical whenever you see indie games come to life and like when you play them, they are not made through magic. So I like to say that indie devs are alchemists. So we are alchemizing blood, sweat, and tears into gameplay gold. Um, and just like a little bit of engagement. If you guys would like to tell me your favorite indie game, please drop it in the chat. The last one I played was Dave the Diver, which is questionably indie apparently, are surrounding its nomination at the Game Awards. But yeah, someone made a whole chart and apparently it is indie. So it's very nice. Please play that game, Dave the Diver. It's Korean. Um, yeah, so there's this meme that I really like. So I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. So this is, I think, like the indie experience, if you even get paid, right? um, yeah, so I think this has been what I've been gravitating towards and like kind of supporting more. I think because indie games hold an irreplaceable place in the industry because this is the site of experimentation and um, kind of like the newer, more cooler, I would say cooler, cooler places to find games and to meet passionate developers. Uh, so working on my own indie game has been quite a ride. So let's start. So on the topic of passionate developers, the P in PCG, which is Psychic City Games, my studio is Passion. I joined my very first game jam, like my very first game jam with a couple of friends, and it snowballed into an international win. So this was 2 years ago, and this was the first ever game I've made, the first game jam I've ever joined. So it was pretty insane because I literally knew nothing going into it, and we just kept going, which is great. I think that gave us like a bit of I think that's part of like why our team is good, and we like to say that we're besties turned game devs. So we are just a couple of friends. We know each other from college, and we just wanted to join this game jam. It was Game Jam Plus. And that was fun, and it was very very fun, like working on it, because I also was the originator of the idea of the game, and it came from a very personal story of mine. If you want to check it out, it's called Meet Me on the Mountain. We are on Steam if you want to wish list it. Um, yeah, but after the award, we turned it into a real project and founded our own studio. Like City Games, and we were just working purely on sweat equity. Um, this was uh, this was made like a few months. This decision was made after winning the award, because we felt like, oh, there's like, are we going to do this for real? Because I think we were all just under the assumption that we were doing this for the game jam and like the incubation program, so that we would just finish it. But afterwards, there were a lot of people who encourage us to continue the game. And I guess that's also the thing when it comes to anyone who goes to a community event or any conference. They're like, oh, how are you? What are your plans for the game? What's going to happen? So I think we felt a little bit of that pressure. Um, but yeah, so we ran into a lot of roadblocks. We have been working on the game for 2 years. Uh, and I think that's too long for any game. For any creative project. Like I feel like we would get stuck. And yeah, naturally we ran into roadblocks. So we were simply too green. We were all new, and most of my members were students at the time, and they were kind of just figuring out like what would they wanted to do with their lives. They liked games, but they weren't really sure if they wanted to go into game dev. So that was one of the considerations that we had as well when we were pushing through. But like I think the biggest thing was we had no idea how to bridge this gap. I would actually have like conversations with our game designer when we would try to make iterations of a new demo. um I'd be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? And then I would spend like an entire, say I would be working the entire night, like half of it would be actually working on the game, and the other half would be searching up like courses that I could attend so that I could formalize my training, so that I would like officially be someone who knows what they're doing. But I just never really found that. And I feel like a big part of this is the inaccessibility of these knowledge sources, these educational programs for Filipinos. Um, so that brings me to my second point, which is that the Philippines, we're a country of prototypes because we lack the infrastructure to support these indie developers and in turn our own indie games. The For context, the Philippines is an outsourcing hub. It's a big outsourcing hub. We've worked a lot, mostly on like art assets and 3D art, and a bit of like game development, I think. Um, but we've worked on like The Last of Us, Cyberpunk, um, and I think currently a Filipino studio is porting Hades to mobile. So that's like an insane portfolio for a country, right? And very clearly we have the talent and the interest in making games. But why is it that we aren't able to make like a big Filipino game? So this is something that we're still trying to figure out. Like um, we really need a lot of support for this, and it really comes down to infrastructure. So that looks like government support, investments, because things don't just come out from the ground. So I think this was like a really big problem, for our studio specifically, because we always had to look outward, uh, to find these opportunities and even mentorship for game design. Because if you're dominantly an outsourcing hub, you wouldn't really find a lot of people who were experts in game design, because usually these studios wouldn't even have a design department because the design comes from the client, right? Yeah, so that was that was quite sad. um then the most important, I think, it's hard to do something you don't like, um especially when you introduce money into the mix. So we all decided to do the project because uh we felt like there was something, but it wasn't really a game. It was really our game, because game jams, they come with diversifiers and themes, right? So effectively, we made this game like the purpose of that game of Meet Me on the Mountain was just to finish that game jam, but we kept going, and then we kind of racked our brain, like trying to figure out how to make it longer, how to make it more fun, how to turn it into like a viable product on the market, which I think wasn't what it's supposed to be. Yeah, so I'm going to teach you the word sayang. So this is a Filipino word as well, or Filipino phrase, but it's also it's a Malay word. So it's usually used to say it's such a waste or it's such a pity. So we heard this a lot, like even like down to 2 weeks ago. I have been hearing people tell me, "Oh, but your game is so sayang," because like it won something, and it's good, like it's cool. You could But I feel like people kept saying that and pinning their own hopes on like Filipino developers, or like the success of Philippine games on us just because we had won this thing. um but we were essentially noobs, so we got that in our heads too, because when you're new, you don't really know much, and we we got swept away on the excitement of other people that they had for a game. It seemed there was a lot of hope. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, and in turn, there was a lot of pressure put on this random game jam project just because it won something. So it was very, it was very stressful. I have a friend who would. So I This is someone that I had been introduced to like 3 times by 3 separate people, and he would joke that everyone was so excited to introduce him to the national hero of the Philippines just because of how like excited everyone was about our game. So that was that was a lot to like unpack. So um yeah, but very nice meme on the over there. So we do have the power to end these patterns. After nearly imploding from the pressure, we ended up deciding to kill the project. There was a lot of internal conflict. Like it got to the point where we started hating each other. And I didn't like that was not fun anymore. We were friends. We were all friends, and we just started hating each other because of this project, just because people wanted this project to be real. And at some point we did, but then we couldn't admit to ourselves that we didn't want it anymore. Um, yeah, so sometimes passion really is not enough. Um, so yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about how to get good at killing your darlings, something very important when it comes to indie games. Um, so yeah, start every project knowing what you want to do with it. I hear a lot of people talking about um, how you should start, like from the get go. You should know how you would want to monetize this project, which I agree with. Like that's real, but I feel like not every indie dev wants to sell their game. Not every indie dev wants to go down the route of finding a publisher and becoming the next big thing, right? Some people just want to make games because they like games, because they love making games. So yeah, just try to try to be aware of like what you want from every project. Um, and of course, know when it's time to stop. I personally think we all stop too late. But I'm now here telling you to know when it's time to stop. Don't kill yourself over indie games. It's not worth it. Um, you'll find you'll find another project uh, to be passionate and to be proud of. Like this isn't the last thing that you're going to be doing. You always have to just believe in that. I think as long as you love something, like you'll find something new to love about it, right? And remember that iteration is forgiving. The faster you fail, the faster you learn. So this is like design concept. The One of the most important design concepts is iteration. Um, a lot of people are very afraid of like starting things, or like they have to be so perfect when it starts, and it has to be that way. And well, I'm telling you, it's not. Like the faster you fail, the faster you will learn things, the more you will learn actually when you fail. Instead of doing things like really well the first time, you won't know much. Like you'll just hit that check mark and then it's over, right? It'll be more meaningful. So yeah. I'm sorry. I'm still also trying to internalize this one. So why stay indie? Is all this heartbreak worth it? Uh, yeah, it is. So F is for fun. Um, uh, One of the most important things that they teach you when making games is to ask yourself, is it fun? Like, what is fun about this? Like, is your player having fun? So that's always been the operative word with games, right? That's why the key word that we use is to play games. Uh, so I am I'm on a movement to uh, kind of change the way we also make games revolving that. So if the games we make revolve so much around fun, then why isn't the process treated the same? So I just want to like talk about why I put Dave the Diver there. So if you haven't played Dave the Diver, it's basically an RPG where you dive, lol, as Dave, and you run a sushi restaurant. And the most important, like the thing that I really loved about this game is how much fun the devs had with it. Like it was so clearly uh made because they wanted to tell this story in a very unique and fun way, the way that they wanted to. So this particular scene, it's one of the scenes that plays when you upgrade a dish in your sushi restaurant, and it's just quite funny because it's peppered. The entire game is peppered with all of these really short cutscenes, and not a lot of people like cutscenes, and it's also kind of hard to make. And on top of that, Dave the Diver already has like a lot of systems, but they went for it, and it gave the game so much personality. And you really know that they're proud and happy about the game that they made. And yeah, so that was like kind of it clicked in my head that things should be this fun as well for the devs. So working games should be fun, and this culture of fun is exemplified the most in the indie dev space. I think if you work corporate, that could be fun. It could be, but I think I personally cannot deal with too much structure and like not having enough impact in the products that we're making. So I try to like work within like smaller teams and in the talking with indie devs all the time. I think it's just more fun. Think it's more fun when it's more difficult. So yeah, there is that uncompromising creative spirit of indie. We love games for the way they make us feel. Games are art. The game is like, video games are an art form, and I feel like the more we realize that the more we will find that uh, people who want to make games this way, they will make the indie like the what we think of like indie games are, which is full of heart and um like shittier graphics, but like better stories, stuff like that. And more experimental, more exciting. And but just like in all craft, like all craft in art forms, anything worth doing is worth messing up a couple of times. So you can't just give up like the first time that you do something. Um, because of this unwavering creative spirit, I think I can't stop myself from making things. And I'm already like, I've had like maybe 3 or 4 more ideas like for new games that I'd want to make. And I just a little bit of like a background also. When we decided that we would do Meet Me on the Mountain as a real project, it came down on a vote, and I was the only person who voted no because I wanted to do other things. I wanted to learn how to make other games, try out new stories. So I think that was what we should have done. But now we have like a new lease on life, so that's okay. But I feel like more people should be more supportive of the indie devs who want to make games as art. Um, So these are, I'm sorry, like I feel like as I've been like so bombarded by so many questions about monetization and like what your roadmap looks like, and that freaks me out because I kind of just want to make smaller, more meaningful experiences with my games, especially I guess because I want I am someone who values storytelling, and I think those take a while. Um, so yeah, sayang also means my love, my darling. That's another cool obsession I've had, like with the language of Malay. So the reason why it's even a word that means like it's such a pity or it's such a waste is because it comes from a place of love. Like it's such a waste to throw all of this love away. Um, yeah. Wow. I love this word. Sorry. So I've grown to appreciate the smallness of indie games. We didn't have to be the first big Filipino IP like what everyone around us wanted. We could just be friends who wants to tell stories through the medium of games. We didn't have to like kill each other over what we thought like would be our big hit, but you know, um, and how could we rob ourselves of that unbridled passion? And uh, because like this passion burns to make more meaningful experiences both for the player and the game maker. And how could we ever like stop ourselves from doing that, being this excited to share it with the world? I remember I was talking to a friend about so it's a Filipino tabletop RPG. So it's on Kickstarter. It's called Gubat Banwa. It's so I've heard about this guy like for years. Like he's been doing it for years, and he's like the number one fan of his game. Like he's been there since day one, and I feel like that's how it should be when you like something, when you love something. That's the kind of projects that you should pursue as an indie developer. And that's where the magic comes from, like from indie games. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like geeking out over certain games. Um, yeah, so I just wanted to share like a quote from um, Eka. So this is the co-founder of Mojican Studio. This is they made the space a space for the Unbound. It was also nominated for a Game Award. So if you guys would like to vote for it, please do. Southeast Asia represent. So it's an Indonesian game. Yeah. One of the most interesting quotes that I've ever like heard. So this was at a conference. Someone asked like, "What are your tips to be a good game developer?" And he said, "Make good games, be a good person, and be nice to everyone." So I think we've lost like in the middle of like thinking too much about industry and like acceleration and everything. We've lost this simple pillar of like creation. You just have to make good games and be a good person, right? Like that, it's quite simple, really. And I'm really glad that they see that. Like for example, a Space Worthy Unbound, it took like 12 years to make, and they went at it like ever since 2013, I think, where they did like a prototype of it, like in a random game jam that they did internally, and they they tried really hard. Like there were a lot of trials for them. Like you should look up like their stories. Um, but yeah, so I'd love I I think like I love hearing that because I think it puts it into perspective, like how our failures were like negligible also. Like it really doesn't matter because there are people who have been at this and are still failing, have been at this longer and are still failing. So why should we stop, right? Um, so a big part of that is to be nice to everyone, right? So the creative spirit that I was talking about earlier about indie, it's meant to be shared. So this is a picture that I'm actually not in. Like, how dare you? How dare my friends do this to me? So it takes a kampong to foster this indie space. So a kampong is also a Malay word. It's called it means village. Yeah. Um, so yeah, it takes a village to foster this indie space of varying stories, and the C community captures this beating heart so well. Um, I feel like I would have just given up and like left the games and be like, I don't want to make games anymore. This is too hard. It's not worth it. But when I met all these people and heard all their stories, I think it made me realize how like it's the same for everyone. It's not a big deal that we flopped. um, because these people are actually there to support even the people who fail. And I think that's the most important thing about community and that indie dev space. We don't just support the winners, we support the people who lose as well. Um, yeah, so the SNC is support. So I have like with all like these feelings about making indie games and being hurt from it, I'm trying to alchemize it into good for everyone around me. So I have just been going around and creating better spaces and more equitable opportunities for Southeast Asian developers in general. So we have women in games meetups, uh, and we have like the game jams and like the workshops. So those are like typical things, right, that you would think of in an indie space. But I included a couple of like more low key pictures. I think one of the most important, like one of my favorite things about hanging out with devs was sharing food with them, like hanging out with them as people, like as friends. You know, like it wasn't like, oh, there's a mixer and you have to network and that's where you meet people. No, like we would say like, you want to have dinner later? Okay, we'll go take you to this cool hawker center in Singapore and we'll eat stingray and drink sugarcane. And actually on the lower left, there's this photo. Um, I don't know if it's clear, but we were actually just like somewhat like one of the indie devs. They opened up their studio for us like in the middle of the night just to house like 30 people so that we could karaoke on YouTube singing Love Story by Taylor Swift. So that was really fun. And also, like, please support this game. It's called Cuisineer. It's a roguelike cooking game. Yeah, so it's Singaporean. Sorry, I'm gonna make you support every Southeast Asian game. I'm sorry, that's my hidden agenda. And then the event on the above it, it was just attended by like 8 people, but it was so impactful and meaningful because we had um, both people who are new in the industry and people who have been there for decades, uh, sharing this space and being very frank and open. And comfortable to just literally just talk about their experiences and being frank about it, which I think uh, is what we need more of. Um, sorry, I'm gonna cry. No, because like it feels so nice to have and to know these people, like to have these spaces. So yeah, community is very important. Yeah, being an indie dev is a lot of hard work, and but I'm glad I don't have to do it alone because of the amazing community, the amazing people that I know and support, who support me, and even the studios that fail. So yeah, muchas gracias. So pictured on the right is an award-winning flop, me who loves indie games and the people who make them. I think we have time for Q&A. You got questions. I may have answers. I'm not sure how we're gonna do this. So let me open up maybe the YouTube. Maybe I'll typing the questions there. Are- Hold on. I hope you're all still awake. Oh my god. Please type questions. If you have any questions, please type it in the chat. I'm on the YouTube. Um, all still awake. Oh my god. Please type questions. If you have any questions, please type it in the chat. I'm on the YouTube. Ooh, I'm seeing
Um,
some questions. Okay. Yes.
yes.
Hello.
Um,
Welcome back.
hello. We're gonna be putting the questions uh, up in the screen as they pop. I'm gonna be checking
Sure.
the different social networks where we are doing the transmission. We're live on ExpoVid's Facebook page, on our YouTube, and also in the page of our media partner, Pinto.com Videojuegos. So let's go through the questions here. Charlie Fernandez says, "How do you overcome creative blocks?" If we can put that one on the screen, please. That's a question in YouTube.
Okay. Hello, Charlie. How do I overcome creative blocks? I do other things that is not related to this game. I touch some grass, take a walk, read a book. No, honestly, like that is what I do. I try to keep my mind off it because I think I'm a very obsessive type of creator. If I can't figure something out, I will spend like an entire day not eating, just focusing on like how to break it, and I think that's not healthy. So try to figure out like what are the things that you like, go into a different space, new mindset to kind of see how to solve the problem. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know
Awesome.
like maybe you've heard that a lot, but yeah.
Okay, now we have Anodice who says, "What are you working next?"
So I'm working on I have a new job. So I have an official job. My first official job in the industry. Everybody clap for me. I'm employed. So
Awesome.
I so this is one of the few no, one of the first I think Filipino publishers. We're so I mentioned earlier I do work for this company, the mobile games company called Monstronauts. We're looking to expand into PC, so we're um, looking at publishing a party game, a social party game. That's me on like the career side, but like what Psychic City Games wants to do next, that's not up to me. um, I think the next thing that we have to do is really um, get into a new space of like creativity to figure out like what we'll do next, like what our game plan is. Uh, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm checking on Facebook and just gonna request to pop up this comment from Jeffrey Gardner Gutierrez. Says lots of value. Thank you very much. And this is a very, very, very relatable conference that you have shared with us. And all of us that have walked the path of the indie at one point or another in our lives. We have, no matter where we're from, Costa Rica, Philippines, United States, Argentina, whatever, we have all gone through very similar stories. We have shared so many of the same pains, and we have suffered pretty much the same things. and we have found joy in pretty much the same things, the passion we all share for making games and connecting with others through that wonderful media, which is video games.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if I have any other questions here in Facebook. It seems not. Let's take a look here at YouTube. It says, Ariana Phillips, how can a game stand out among the sea of indies?
Oh, that's hard. So I'm going to put my media hat on. So as someone who curates like exhibits um for like indies at like conferences or conventions, I always try to look for I would say like one of the first things would always be art. There's a certain kind of polish I think that attracts people, and of course like that's the first thing, right? But then when you come up to their booth, it would be great if like I kind of understood like what the game was like from the get go. So I think that's like one of the things that developers find to be hard. They aren't like they know how to make their game, but they don't know how to communicate it. And especially in like a convention setting, you only have like 30 seconds because people are like walking and rushing, passing by. Yeah, so I think what can make you stand out is really like knowing your game and like knowing what makes your game special. Yeah.
Awesome. And Ignacio Rivera Gonzalez says here, for you, what's the difference between a game filled with soul and an empty project like some corporations do?
um so personally I think there's I am also a fan of like the games that like AAA games, right? Like I'm a big Assassin's Creed nerd, and I am like a big, oh no, can I say that word? Like I'm a big whore for like Star Wars games also. Like I love like any game that has Star Wars on it. I'm buying it. I don't even care like what it is. um, but I think the difference with like the experience of playing those games are that these larger AAA games, they tend to be more conservative, and they stick towards like things that have been tried and tested, not even like um the within the conventions of a genre, like really the most conservative parts of that genre. I think they tend to stick to that because of the pressure that they get from working on these big IPs, like Star Wars or like Assassin's Creed, and like the risk of losing even a little bit, like a small percentage of their player base. So the pressure that the probably like the board of investors or like the finance people, that's what drives these creative decisions, and most often they don't actually become like creative games. So yeah, then with indie games you can really tell that they're trying to go for something, and even if like it doesn't look nice, like I would still really appreciate like something really cool that's new, like mixing genres. Like one of my favorite games of the year is actually Lovebird. So it's a Filipino game where they mix rhythm, and it's also a dating sim where you do the mating dance because you're birds. So that's it's really a cool concept. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Nisi, for sharing all your knowledge, your experience, your heart with us. And hopefully, as I said, we're going to be able to see you very soon here in Costa Rica in an upcoming edition of ExpoVid. Thank you for making ExpoVid 2023 amazing, and thanks everyone for joining the conversation, for joining this conference. We have more coming up. I'm gonna switch to Spanish now. Viene ya muy pronto el showcase de videojuegos de ExpoVid 2023. Y este showcase es sumamente especial porque recuerden que mañana, durante los Beat Awards, los juegos, varios de los juegos que van a ver en el showcase a continuación, van a ser premiados en vivo, en directo, en un gran escenario, frente a una gran audiencia, recibiendo esos trofeos, esos galardones por el gran logro de haberse convertido en uno de los mejores juegos de este año. De nuevo, gracias a nuestro media partner Pinto con Videojuegos, quienes nos acompañan año tras año para llevar adelante Expovid a través de este medio virtual, y también a la Universidad Creativa por hacer Expovid 2023 una realidad. Nos vemos entonces muy pronto en la próxima transmisión, el showcase de videojuegos de Expovid y los Beat Awards 2023. Gracias, Nisi. Nos vemos.
Thank you.